Remember the whole debacle of a main event match between Roman Reigns and The Undertaker? It was a match fans were looking forward to, but simply didn't deliver on those expectations. Now, what if I tell you that that match is way better than some of the matches we're going to count down right now? I'm Kevin, and here are the 5 most disappointing WWE WrestleMania main event matches of all time. Before we get going, jump into the comments below, let us know what you think, hit that like button, and slam the subscribe. Number 5, Triple H versus Roman Reigns. Triple H and Reigns' WWE Championship match was the main event nobody was really anticipating at WrestleMania 32. Although it was known months in advance that the two would be headlining the show of shows, 1, it was obvious that Reigns was going to recapture the WWE Championship from Triple H, and 2, the same storyline was kind of going on since Survivor Series 2015 with The Authority and Vince McMahon trying to get the better of our tribal chief, except he wasn't the tribal chief just yet. You know what I'm talking about. Speaking of the main event, it was another typical lengthy Triple H match at WrestleMania. WrestleMania 32 ended with Roman Reigns celebrating as the new WWE Champion, with only a minority of fans present really getting behind the move. The big dog was the champion, but we were just waiting for the tribal chief, right? Number 4, John Cena versus The Miz. WrestleMania 27 in Atlanta, Georgia is considered to be one of the worst WrestleManias of all time if you talk to younger, more modern fans. The main event between The Miz and Cena for the WWE Championship wasn't particularly good, and it featured an ending that people still complain about every single day. Somewhere on the internet, they're complaining. Although he held the top prize in the company, The Miz wasn't really an established main eventer. The title was making him, he wasn't exactly making the title. The build towards the Mania main event didn't help him do any favors, as it focused more on the budding rivalry between The Rock and Cena. Was The Rock going to get involved? What was The Rock going to do? And it kind of overshadowed the two competitors in the match itself. It almost seemed like The Miz became an afterthought, even though he was the champion going into the match. That was proven true as the match initially ended in a countout. A WrestleMania main event ends in a countout. The Rock came out and demanded the match be restarted, as he was the host of that year's WrestleMania under no holds barred rules. Rocky then proceeded to hit Cena with a rock bottom, which allowed The Miz to gain the pinfall victory and retain the title. It didn't help that Miz also got injured in this match, and within 24 hours, no one was talking about The Miz's win, because we were already getting our way on the road to a once-in-a-lifetime match between The Rock and Cena at the following year's WrestleMania. Number 3, Hulk Hogan versus Sid Justice. While his match against The Undertaker at WrestleMania 13 is still a fun one, Sid Justice's battle with Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania 8 in Indianapolis is certainly underwhelming. After their encounter at the 1992 Royal Rumble, one of the best Royal Rumbles of all time, Sid versus Hogan had the potential to be a big deal at the biggest show of the year, but it fell short of those expectations. And one of the reasons didn't have anything to do with their match. It's because, really, they didn't have the best match on the show. It was all about Macho Man Randy Savage against the Nature Boy Ric Flair for the WWE title in a heated contest. In order to keep Hogan happy and still maintain Hulkamania at the top of the WrestleMania card, WWE really missed an opportunity to end the show on a great note, with Savage winning back the gold and celebrating in the ring with Elizabeth. Also, the ending with Hogan versus Sid just didn't play out the way it was supposed to. Papa Shango was supposed to run down to the ring and break up a pinfall. He missed his cue. Hogan ultimately won by disqualification, which set up the Ultimate Warrior to run down to the ring, make his big return, and save Hogan from an attack. It just wasn't what it was supposed to be. When you think of great Hulk Hogan matches and moments, this isn't on that list. Number 2, Lawrence Taylor versus Bam Bam Bigelow. After the success of Mr. T's performance at WrestleMania 1, several other celebrities were involved in WWE storylines at the biggest show of the year. WWE has never been shy of hitching their wagon to a big successful name outside of wrestling, and there may be no more successful professional sports league in the world than the National Football League. So placing a former New York Giants star like linebacker Lawrence Taylor in the WrestleMania 11 main event is kind of a smart idea when you think about it. It makes sense, it pops off the marquee, common casual fans will be like, ooh, this is interesting, but it wasn't reflected in the pay-per-view buy rates that year, and the rest of the card wasn't strong enough to make up for the celebrity main event match, at least in the eyes of some critics. LT faced an incredibly talented and accomplished Bam Bam Bigelow at WrestleMania 11, 2011, widely regarded as one of the best big men to ever lace up his boots. On his podcast, Something to Wrestle With, WWE executive Bruce Pritchard credited Bam Bam for making the match work. Unfortunately, Bigelow wasn't a main event player at the time, so nobody really cared about him headlining the show of shows or defending the WWE's honor against the NFL. This isn't exactly the fault of Lawrence Taylor either. He went in there and gave it a go and seemed winded quite a bit at the post-show press conference, calling it one of the hardest things he had ever done at the time. Number 1. Hulk Hogan versus Yokozuna. After winning the 1993 Royal Rumble, Yokozuna earned the right to face Bret Hart in the WWE Championship main event of WrestleMania 9 in Las Vegas, Nevada. He won the match and the title through some nefarious means with outside interference from Mr. Fuji, his manager. But Hulk Hogan, brother, had to make his presence known in the main event even though he was in a tag team match earlier in the night. Yokozuna and Mr. Fuji immediately challenged Hogan for the newly won championship for some odd, unknown reason, leading to Hogan winning his 5th WWE title. And it only lasted 22 seconds. But what is the logic behind this big leg drop incident in Las Vegas? At that time, Hogan headlined every WrestleMania prior to WrestleMania 9, with the exception of WrestleMania 4. His contention is that WrestleMania should end with a babyface standing tall. But one can argue that the Hulkster just wanted the limelight. He dropped the title back to Yokozuna at King of the Ring a few months later, another match with another messy finish, so there was no need for the match to even happen. The Hart vs. Yokozuna main event was alright, but it could have been so much better if we simply just had the Hitman using his technical greatness against one of the biggest big men ever. There was redemption though the following year at WrestleMania 10 when Hart defeated Yokozuna for the WWE Championship at Madison Square Garden.